my channel. Today's video is covering all things powder foundation. So if you are new to powder foundation, if you've never worn it before, or if you've tried to wear it in the past and it hasn't quite worked out for you, then I hope the tips I'm going to share in today's video may help you out. Powder foundation can definitely be tricky depending on the type of skin you have, depending on the products you use, but I started out with powder foundation and so I always feel comfortable going back to it. So I hope the tips that I have for you guys today are going to help, especially if you have struggled with powder foundation, because I feel like that is one of the top questions I get on my channel is, you know, how do you make powder foundation look so full coverage? How do you make it look flawless? How do you make it look natural? So I hope I cover everything in this video for you guys today. I'm going to stop rambling and we're going to go ahead and get on into it. Okay, so the first thing that is always important to do when starting out with powder foundation is to moisturize your skin. Regardless of if you are oily, normal, combo, a moisturizer is going to be essential, as well as a primer when you do use powder foundation. So the one I really like to use is the Embryolisse Le Creme Concentrate, and this is in French, FYI, but that's how we say it down here in Tennessee. But this is great stuff to wear underneath makeup. It really does, it actually almost acts like a primer. It really does smooth out your skin. Plus it gives you a really nice hydrated finish. Like I mentioned, a primer is totally essential when you do wear powder foundation, unless you're just throwing it on really quickly and just going out the door, which if you're watching this tutorial, that's hopefully not what you're planning on doing. But I recommend a really good pore minimizing primer, because powders do have a tendency to enhance pores more than what a liquid or a cream might do. So I have two that I always wear with my powder foundations. The first one is the Bare Minerals Brightening Primer. I also like the original Bare Minerals primer, but since I'm really dry, I really like the brightening property of this primer, but it also does help to minimize the appearance of your pores. So I do love this formula. If you have really large pores and you need something that is going to really help to fill those in, the one I always suggest is the POREfessional from Benefit. This is a balm-like texture and it really gets in there and smooths out those pores. So these two are the ones that I would suggest. I think I'm just going to use my brightening primer today because it is my favorite out of the two, and I just use about a pea-size amount. And I really just focus my primer where I want my pores to be filled in. So that's going to be around my cheeks, around my chin, and on my forehead. For the most important part, the powder foundation. So powder foundation is really tricky because I could sit here and tell you use this powder foundation and it may work for someone and it may be awful on another person. I have seen that firsthand with the powder foundations that I personally use. They look great on me, but on someone else they may look like crap. So the deal is you have to find a powder foundation that works with your skin type and looks good on your skin, and that's going to take some trial and error. You're definitely going to have to, if you've never experimented with powder foundation before, then you're definitely going to have to find one that works for your skin type. You know, you may be more gravitated towards a compact powder foundation or a loose powder foundation, but I have two that are hands down my favorite. They're actually the only powder foundations I have ever tried that I love, and the first one is the Bare Minerals Original Foundation. I also like the matte formula of this, which is just a loose version. It just doesn't have as much luminosity to it. So if you are more oily, you would probably like that better. But this is my #1 favorite powder foundation. I absolutely love this, but then again, I will say there's times when I use this on people and it doesn't always look the best. And as far as a powdered compact foundation, I have only found one that I have ever liked, and it is the MAC Studio Fix Powder Foundation, and it just comes in a compact like this, and this looks great on my skin, but like I said, I've used it on people before and it doesn't necessarily look the best. But a lot of people ask me if I like Bare Minerals Ready Foundation, the pressed version of that. that looks terrible on me. It really does enhance my pores, but then again, I have some people I've put it on, it looks flawless. So you're just gonna have to go out and find the right powder foundation. I've also heard that Pure Minerals makes a really good pressed compact foundation. I've never tried that one before, but I have heard a lot of people say that they like it. In case you've tried both of these and you need another recommendation. So the brush you're using for your powder foundation makes a huge difference. If you have a really crappy foundation brush for your powder foundation is not going to look good. So the one that I really love, I have two options. One I do not have right here to show you. I have literally searched all over for it and I have misplaced it, but I will have it listed down below so you guys can see it. But the first one I really love with compact powder foundations is the Bare Minerals Heavenly Face brush. This is a flat top buffing brush. Obviously Bare Minerals, they make really great brushes for powder foundations because that's what they started on. But some people are allergic to these brushes because they're made out of goat and pony hair. So if you have an allergy to this brush, you're obviously going to need a synthetic brush. And that was where my other brush was going to come in at. And it was the not It Cosmetics, the Up and Up powder brush. Or kabuki brush from Target. So it's basically just a little fat kabuki brush, but it's synthetic and it works really good with powder foundations, whether they're loose or whether they're compact. This brush also works really good with loose powder. I don't know why I said specifically for compact, I guess because it's so flat on the bottom. But this is the one I'm going to use today because it buffs really good. You need something that's going to be dense. If you were to use something like this powder brush right here, this is not dense at all. So it's not going to pack the product on your skin. It's just going to make a really sheer layer, if that makes sense. So today I'm going to use my MAC Studio Fix powder just because I actually have not used this in a while and this specific color matches me better than the one that I have in Bare Minerals right now. So I'm using the shade NC25 in my Studio Fix Compact and I'm just going to pick up some product on my brush. And the thing with powder foundation, I feel like people always mess up on is they're really quick to get a ton of product on their brush and try to buff that all over really quickly. The key with powder foundation that a lot of people don't know is once you actually buff it into your skin, if you take the time to buff it into your skin, the powder products actually melt into more of a cream product. When they mix with your natural skin oils, they melt into like a cream product, especially with Bare Minerals loose foundation. That is what it is formulated to do. So that's why it looks good on so many different skin types, is because it actually morphs into almost like a cream once you buff it in. Obviously, if you're oily skinned, powder foundations are going to be a dream come true for you. I seriously am such a firm believer. People who have oily skin, powder is the best way to go. So yeah, you may like something better like the Bare Minerals matte foundation. The Studio Fix powder is definitely more of a matte finish as well. So you may like those options better. So what I did is I just picked up the minimal amount of product and I'm just going to start buffing that in. I like to start on the outer edge of my face. I don't really know why. Most people start in the center. But I just take the time to really buff this into the skin. Even once you realize there's no more product on the brush, the more you buff, the better powder foundation's gonna look. Put a ton of product underneath my eye area because I do use concealer after the powder foundation, which I will touch on after I apply the rest of the powder, but I did want to throw that out there. If you are a concealer junkie and you do like to use a lot of concealer, try not to use a ton of powder in your under eye area and you will have a way better results and it won't be as, you know, thick and crepey. Can be a little little tricky with powder foundation. I know most people would put their concealer on before they do their foundation, but I never do that regardless of if I'm using powder or liquid, just because if you put your concealer on first and then you do your foundation, it's just going to buff away the product. So I don't really do that regardless of what type of foundation I'm using. But there is one specific concealer that I think layers really nicely on top of powder foundation, and that is the Maybelline Instant Age Rewind Concealer. And this is really the only time that I use this one is when I do a powder foundation look. For some reason, I think it just layers, it meshes really well with powder product. And I'm using the shade Neutralizer. It's more of the yellow toned one, and this is what I like to use underneath my eyes with my powder foundation. This out, I just use something like my Real Techniques contour brush. Anything that's fluffy that's really going to diffuse the product out instead of packing it in one certain area will really help to make the skin look more natural, I guess, and not as concentrated underneath the eye. Now, as far as pinpoint concealing goes, if you want to conceal acne or any type of bumps that you may have on your skin, I still think the best way to go is to wait and do it until after you've applied your powder foundation. As long as your concealer is matching your skin, you shouldn't have a problem with doing a light cream on top of a powder. That is, if the powder is working properly for your skin. If you feel like your powder looks terrible on your skin, I would try to find something else. But anytime I do powder foundation, I always do the concealer after. After I have done my concealer, I just like to set it with a lightweight translucent powder. I'm using the Makeup Forever HD setting powder, and I'm just going to take a little bit on my Morphe M438 brush and just going to sweep some underneath my eye. Really, any type of translucent powder would work. It's just for the purpose of setting where we applied cream product. So this is pretty much my powder foundation after I'm done with everything. Obviously with powder you're going to have more of a matte look, so if you're really dry like I am and the powder does appear just a little bit powdery, I would suggest using some type of setting spray. I always use a setting spray with my powder foundations. I use Urban Decay All Nighter, but really anything that's going to make your skin look a little bit more dewy, that's going to have moisture on top of your skin, that's going to help reduce the powdery look if it does appear powdery on oily skin. Like, I'm just like bragging on the oily skin people right now. Powder foundation I think looks amazing. I mean, that's just me. But anyways, if you do have more of a drier skin type, make sure you are using a setting powder or a setting spray. Another tip for those dry skin people out there when it comes to your highlighter, don't be afraid to use a cream highlighter. I love using the Benefit What's Up with my powder foundation, or anytime I feel like I've applied too much powder and I just can't get that powder look down, I like to go in with some type of cream product, most of the time a cream highlighter, and this really just gives life back to your skin so your skin isn't so matte. So that's what I'm going to do today, just to kind of show you guys what this looks like on top of a powder. you out. If you have any questions for me, feel free to leave them down below. I hope I answered a wide variety of questions surrounding powder foundation. I know it can be tricky, but I always love the way it ends up looking. I mean, especially when I haven't worn it in a long time and I've been wearing a ton of liquids. When I go back to my powder, I just feel like, I don't know, it looks really good on me, and I have super dry skin. So if you have really dry skin, don't be afraid to wear it. You're just gonna have to find the right way to wear it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see y'all in my next video. Bye.